Group, our law firm that practices in the area of private placements and securities laws, writing offerings for Regulation D, Regulation A+, and Regulation crowdfunding. So if you have any questions about raising money from a group of people, call us and we'd be happy to discuss it with you. Today, I'm answering a question that I received this week from an investor in a fund. And the question basically is, what do you mean by return on investment? And they were having some questions about what the balance sheet and profit and loss statement said and how that related to the checks that they were receiving from the sponsor. So I want to talk about return on. And there are some numbers here for those of you who are listening, but I think they're easy numbers to understand. But we need numbers to explain this. So now I'm going to talk about return on, and I'm going to relate it to what happens in the bank. Okay. In my example, you put $100,000 in the bank. The bank is paying you 10%, just for an example, which would mean at the end of the year, you're expecting $10,000 of interest. Your money would have earned $10,000 from the bank. So you go at the end of the year and you look at your bank account and there's $110,000 in the bank. You withdraw $10,000 and your remaining balance is $100,000. So the question is, what is that $10,000? That's interest. That's return on your money. Your $100,000 worked for the year and you earned a return on your money in the amount of $10,000. And you could say that your distribution from that account was $10,000 and it was all return on your money. Different example, same $100,000 in the bank, same 10% interest. You go to the bank at the end of the year, there's $110,000 in your account and you withdraw $98,000. I'm sorry, you withdraw 100 and you withdraw 12,000. I'll get my answer right. There's 110 in the bank and you withdraw $12,000. Okay. So what do you have in your account? You have $98,000. Your distribution was $12,000, which was 12%, but it wasn't all a return on, was it? $10,000 was the interest you earned. $2,000 had to be part of your principal. You took $2,000 out of your 100. So this distribution of 12% was 10% return on and 2% return of. 12%, but not all return on. Now let's relate that to a syndication. Little different numbers, but still easy. $1 million raised from all the investors. The sponsor says we can pay you 10% each year, 10% cash on cash. So sponsor runs the property, $200,000 of net operating income in my example, $45,000 of operating expenses, $55,000 of debt service, leaving us $100,000 in the bank. The property produced income, we paid the expenses, we paid the debt service, and there's $100,000 left. The sponsor can distribute that. That's just what the sponsor planned. $10,000, a 10% distribution representing $100,000 on the $1 million invested. So the distribution is 100. It's all a return on your investment. Let's go over here for another example. Same situation. $1 million raised, promise of 10%. The property produces $200,000 of income. But this year, the operating expenses went up to $55,000. The mortgage payment was still $55,000. So what's in the bank at the end of the year is $90,000. That's really what you earned. The property earned $90,000. But the sponsor sends you 100. Okay, that's a 10% distribution. but 90,000 is what you returned, what you're getting because of the return on your money while it's in the property. Okay. The question to be answered is, where does the extra $2,000 come from? The sponsor is sending you $2,000 that didn't come from the operations of the property, didn't come from the return on your money. So it must have come from somewhere else. And I have another podcast coming up. The next podcast I will do, we'll talk to you about that question. How do you know what to do? You read the financial statements. You look at the financial statements and see how much money is the property making? How much are they distributing? Is there a discrepancy? Okay. Then you call the sponsor and ask. We had the person actually who called me said that for 4 years they've been receiving their full distribution. But when they look at the financial statement, not 1 year has the property produced a return equal to the distribution. So the question is, where's that extra money coming from? And that's something, you need to be careful of. So we'll see you next time on my next podcast, and we'll answer that question. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can contact us at 949-570-1507. You can contact me by email, gene@trowbridgelawgroup.com. Go to our website, trowbridgelawgroup.com. And don't forget our YouTube channel, YouTube/Trowbridge Law. We have all sorts of good information, educational things on our YouTube channel. So I'll see you next time.